Hi, welcome to our case review, which is Government of Malaysia versus Gurcharan Singh. In this case, Government Malaysia as a plaintiff and Gurcharan Singh as a defendant. The Government of Malaysia has sued Gurcharan Singh, the first defendant, who is a contract promiser, and ORS, the second and third defendant, who are contract sureties, for breaking the contract. In the contract, Malaysian government offering a scholarship to the first defendant for his study at Malayan Teachers Training Institution in exchange for the first defendant serving the government as a teacher. Even though the first contract is for 5 years, defendant only worked for the government for 3 years and 10 months. However, the first defendant was in a minor state at the time the contract was made. The compensation demand for this case is 11,500 ringgit Malaysia. Because the first defendant was a baby at the time of the contract, it was an invalid contract. As a result, the major debtor was not held accountable, and the second and third defendant, who were the contract sureties, were also not held guilty. However, because of the exemption of necessary claim, the first defendant was liable for repayment of the amount spent on his education and training as necessaries. Under this scenario, the amount of damage due must be based on the restitution of a share of the actual quantity spent based on the completed month of services. And in these circumstances, the plaintiff would be awarded 2,683 ringgit Malaysia against the defendants.
We shall continue. What is it in the principal state? The participants in the contract must have legal capacity as defined by the S10 Contracts Act 1950. In order for the contract to be legitimate, the provision stipulates that parties competent to contract must freely consent, as 11 of the Act, on the other hand, defines these competent people. According to the Act, a person is considered competent if he or she has reached the age of majority, is of sound mind, and is not disqualified by any legislation to which he or she is subjected. According to the Age of Majority Act of 1971, a minor is someone who has not achieved the age of majority, which is 18 years old. As a result, contracts entered into by a minor are void under the Act. Next is contract necessaries. Another exception to the usual norm is the contract for necessities. A minor who enters into a contract for necessities is responsible for it. According to the Contract of 1950, Section 69, if a person who is incapable of entering into a contract or who is legally obligated to support is provided by another person who has furnished such supplies, the person who has furnished such supplies is entitled to reimbursement from the property of such incapable person. As a result, the criteria outlined above will apply to contracts for necessities put into by minors. The contract will be effective if the minor has been provided with articles that are deemed required for the minor's current needs and appropriate for the minor's current situation, for example, food, housing, clothes, medical services, and education. Thank you.